Patricia Johnson adjusted the strap of her worn leather bag as she stepped into the polished, gleaming private terminal of Skyline Aviation. Her company. At 72, she no longer cared for luxury handbags or glittering accessories. Simplicity had always been her armor and her rebellion. Yet today, her understated appearance would become the reason people dared to underestimate her. "Ma'am, first class is for VIP passengers only. Your ticket must be for economy class." The words were delivered in a tone that carried more than policy. They carried judgment. Flight attendant James Wilson, tall, handsome, and dressed in an immaculate navy suit, had stretched his arms across the aisle of the executive jet, forming a human barrier. His expression was polite on the surface but edged with condescension. Patricia met his gaze without flinching. Her gray hair, slightly disheveled from the cab ride, framed a face that carried decades of battles. Not all of them won, but none of them surrendered. "I'm sure there's been a mistake," she replied, her voice calm, unshaken. She held out her boarding pass. "My seat is 1A. Wilson glanced at the document but dismissed it almost instantly. He smiled, the kind of smile that disguised contempt with corporate courtesy. "These systems sometimes fail. I'll ask our ground staff to sort out this confusion." From seat 2B, Victoria Kane, Skyline's ambitious vice president of operations, watched the exchange with a faint smile tugging at her lips. Her dark blazer and gleaming tablet gave her the aura of modern efficiency. She had been promoted just 6 months earlier after dazzling the board with a presentation on the future of aviation leadership. What they didn't know was that Victoria had her own vision for the future, one where Patricia Johnson no longer had a place. "Maybe it's better to look for a commercial flight," Victoria interjected sweetly, pretending not to recognize her own boss. "These executive jets are really only for—" "Well, you know," Patricia felt the sting, not because of the words, but because of the betrayal beneath them. She had built Skyline Aviation from the ground up, transforming a small hangar she inherited from her father into one of the largest executive aviation companies in the country. For decades, she had worked 12-hour days, fighting bankers who didn't believe in her, contractors who undercharged her, and competitors who wanted her gone. And now, she was being told she didn't belong on her own plane. James Wilson's solution was swift and brutal. "Why don't you wait here while we sort this out?" he said, placing a plastic chair in the narrow boarding corridor. Its placement was strategic, directly in view of the seated passengers already sipping champagne inside the luxury cabin. Patricia sat down, back straight, eyes calm, while muffled laughter drifted from inside. "Poor thing," a passenger whispered. "She must have confused it with a commercial flight." Victoria leaned toward Wilson in the cabin. "Let her wait longer. She needs to understand where she belongs." To Wilson, Victoria was the embodiment of modern leadership. Young, stylish, connected to elite clients. She had hired him personally 3 months ago, and he was eager to please. Meanwhile, Patricia gazed out the wide glass windows of the terminal, watching as her fleet, 12 Skyline Aviation aircraft, landed and took off. Each represented sleepless nights, loans denied because she was a black woman, contracts won through grit. Every jet outside was her legacy. Her phone buzzed. A message from the board. "Patricia, today's meeting has been postponed. Internal issues to resolve first. The third postponement in 2 weeks." The puzzle was coming together. Whispered conversations that ended when she entered, canceled meetings, and now this public humiliation. Inside the cabin, Victoria whispered to Wilson again. "She's been asking too many questions. About internal reorganization. About the board's decisions. She's a troublemaker," Wilson nodded. He didn't know Patricia Johnson's true identity, but he trusted Victoria. Patricia heard every word, and though her heart ached, her face betrayed nothing. She had felt this before, in the 1980s when bankers laughed at her loan applications, in the 1990s when male executives asked to speak to the real person in charge, and every time she had won. "Do you need help, Donna Pat?" The familiar voice belonged to Roberto Mendez, Skyline's chief mechanic for 15 years. He had watched the entire scene unfold, anger flashing behind his controlled expression. Wilson stepped forward, blocking him. "Sir, please don't interfere. This is a security matter." Roberto ignored him. "The other pilots are asking where you are. Captain Martinez said he's never seen you miss a flight in 20 years. Patricia smiled for the first time. Roberto wasn't just an employee, he was her confidant, the one man who knew every operational and financial detail of Skyline. More importantly, he had full access to the company's internal systems. "Roberto, could you check something for me?" she asked softly. Victoria appeared in the doorway. "James, what's going on?" Roberto straightened. "Actually, Miss Victoria, I've been reviewing some financial transfers from the last 6 weeks. 3 new accounts, all from your terminal." Victoria froze. Her icy composure faltered. Patricia discreetly typed into her phone, activating remote access to the company's systems. Within seconds, she had a complete log of every unauthorized transaction. Wilson's confidence cracked. "What are you two doing?" Patricia stood slowly, her calm voice slicing through the air. "James, do you know how many families depend on this company? 847 direct employees, over 2,000 indirect jobs, contracts with 15 companies and 3 state governments. Do you really think someone who isn't deeply connected to this business would know that by heart?" The color drained from Wilson's face. Patricia handed Wilson her business card. He read it, hands trembling. Patricia Johnson, founder and CEO, Skyline Aviation. Inside the cabin, passengers gasped. One woman dropped her champagne flute. Victoria tried to recover. "You're lying. The CEO of Skyline is supposed to be young. Modern, like you, Victoria?" Patricia's voice was firm. "Or modern, like the Cayman Islands accounts you've been funneling money into?" Silence fell. Roberto tapped a screen, activating the cabin's intercom. Every passenger, every employee in the terminal heard Patricia's next words. "Victoria, you thought you could humiliate me publicly, undermine me privately, and steal what I spent 50 years building. But you forgot one thing. You can't take away the truth." Roberto displayed the transactions. 2.3 million embezzled in 6 weeks. Victoria's digital authorizations attached to every file. And then came the recording. Her own voice, leaked from a phone call. "The old woman doesn't suspect a thing. In 3 months, when the board realizes the losses, she'll take the fall. I'll be CEO." Wilson staggered backward. I didn't know. She told me that I was disruptive?" Patricia interrupted. "That I asked inconvenient questions?" Her eyes locked with his. "James, respect isn't about recognizing executives by their suits or luggage. It's about recognizing human dignity." Airport security entered. The company's lawyer's voice boomed over the intercom. "Victoria Kane, you are under immediate investigation for embezzlement and conspiracy." As security placed handcuffs on her wrists, Victoria's defiance melted into desperation. "Please, I was only trying to modernize." "Patricia, you don't understand." Patricia shook her head. "What saddens me most isn't your betrayal. It's that you wasted your brilliance trying to destroy when you could have built." She turned to Wilson. "James, you're dismissed, effective immediately. But you'll receive a recommendation. You were manipulated. Learn from this." Wilson's tears fell silently. "Thank you." As Victoria was escorted away, every eye in the terminal turned back to Patricia. She had endured humiliation, but reclaimed her power with quiet, undeniable strength. 6 months later, the fallout was seismic. Victoria was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Her once polished LinkedIn profile became a cautionary tale of arrogance and ambition gone wrong. Wilson rebuilt his career at a smaller logistics company, sending Patricia letters of gratitude. "You taught me that dignity has nothing to do with status," one read. Roberto was promoted to Director of Operations. At his inauguration, he said, "Donna Patricia showed me that loyalty isn't about obeying blindly. It's about protecting integrity, even when it means speaking truth to power." Patricia introduced the Universal Dignity Protocol across Skyline. Every employee, from pilots to flight attendants, received training on unconscious bias and respect. Clients noticed. Sales skyrocketed 40% in 1 quarter. Passengers from that humiliating flight transformed, too. One man who mocked Patricia volunteered for diversity workshops. A woman who sneered at her became an activist against workplace discrimination. When Forbes asked Patricia how she felt that day, she replied, "The same way I felt every time someone underestimated me. Pity. Because when people judge by appearance, they waste the chance to know someone's true worth." Her closing words became legendary in business circles. "I didn't build this company to sell it. I built it to prove that competence has no color, no age, no gender. Betrayal doesn't destroy us. It refines us. And prejudice? It's just the world's way of underestimating greatness before it reveals itself."